Welcome to the show. Tonight, we recap SmackDown, we watch Rampage, everything WWE and AEW coming at you. Yes, indeed, I am here. We are back. Johnny is here. Indeed. I say that a lot on this show, and I wonder how many people get the reference. Indeed. I know Johnny does.
I remember Kai-En-Tai. I think some people remember it.
I love that.
Not that old school yet.
When they came out and went, Indeed. I mean, that was a long time ago, John. When was Kai-En-Tai doing Indeed?
That was 2000.
Was it?
2001, possibly.
It's good 23 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you remember your stuff. That was prime time for you. Prime time for all of us, I think, back then.
And now?
Well, now it's, the airing of grievances, which happens to be in a couple hours, so yeah.
Johnny is ready to air his grievances.
You watched Monday Night Raw this week. I mean, you watched SmackDown this week. You watched Dynamite this week. A lot of grievances.
I kind of watched Raw this week. I mean, you watched all of Raw this week? I can't. I'm not able to do that.
Raw was the good, the bad, the ugly. Like, there was some good for Raw. But man, was that bad. Oof. Really bad. Mainly the bad women's wrestling.
Real bad. We saw, what did we see on Raw this week? Gunther and Miz. You like that? Gunther is so good, he can make the Miz have a good match.
It was probably the Miz's best match I've seen this year. Even though, he kind of sandbagged a bit on that powerbomb in the apron and it looked like crap in the end, it still was a very good match despite that.
Gunther
I also
great.
thought the Miz, I thought it was good, but the Miz, there was a point in the match, it could have been spectacular. But for whatever reason, I don't know what happened. They were talking and maybe they just missed it or miscommunication of some kind. I can't even say what I'm supposed to say for that. But yeah, miscommunication on that. And Miz, I think he had just hit in the skull crushing finale the first time. And he was giving Gunther some kicks. If he gave him the yes kicks right there, the crowd was so hot. That was when he really had the crowd right there. Mm-hmm. And he gave some quick kicks that were kind of nothing. And they just kind of died right there a bit for the crowd.
Yeah.
So, just there was moments right there. He had a moment right there to really get the crowd going, and he kind of lost it there a bit. But, nitpicking little things. It was still a very good, entertaining match.
Probably the best match on the show.
Probably, because I'm trying to think of what was good. I didn't mind the main event. I wasn't a fan of the main event, but
Judgment Day versus the Creeds, right?
I thought it was all right. Just I find they push the Creeds way too hard, way too fast. They shouldn't have been put in that position right away, and it kind of showed that they weren't ready for that. And it was just very telling in a lot of moments where things were happening way too fast. And I don't know if you caught the finish to that match, but I think you remember the most because that's how it ended. And it just ended kind of terribly for Damian Priest because he got his face smashed in on that Creed ball finish they do.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he's clutching his face pretty much for most of the end of the match. He hits his finish, I think it's the South of Heaven chokeslam.
Yeah.
And he goes for the pin, 1, 2, 3, and the guy just kicks out. And he looks so pissed. I would be pissed if that wasn't supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be livid about that because that's your finish, and the guy just kicked out like that. And there was no point to that. Commentating didn't even talk about it whatsoever. Didn't even put it over and say, oh, they barely just beat him kind of thing. There was no story to that. So it looked like that wasn't supposed to happen. And by Priest's reaction, it definitely wasn't supposed to happen. So for the show to end like that, that took away a lot from the match, sadly.
I wonder if it was supposed to happen. I guess We'll see what they do with the Creeds going forward. Talented guys, though, right? Talented guys. Fun new tag team on
There's
Raw. Interesting.
a, a lot of Raw potential there,
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of Raw talent, great athletes. But to me, it was like very telling. It's like you can do the moves well, you can execute them almost to perfection. But if there's no rhyme or reason to it, it's just a bunch of moves. Like Pat Patterson kind of said it one time. I remember in practice, he was just saying, it's just like stirring spaghetti. Like, yeah, it looks nice, but there's nothing spectacular to it. You're just stirring over and over. Nothing great to it.
It looks nice. Pat Patterson
It looks
enjoyed
nice.
watching people stir spaghetti.
Well, it's just doing moves. Like it looks nice, but that's it.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
There's no feeling behind
ordinary.
it. Yeah.
There's no sauce.
Yeah, I got a little bit. I'm just bored by it. It's just not that interesting to me. A lot of the stuff on Raw is just kind of boring and uninteresting. And unless they have CM Punk on the show at this point, I have a hard time finding a reason to tune in.
Well,
and CM Punk is barely on that show. He wasn't on Raw. And when he's on the show, he's advertised to be on the show. It's like a big deal. They treat him like he's Roman Reigns of Raw, right? Whenever Roman Reigns is on SmackDown, they tell you in advance, they advertise it, they hype it up like it's a very big deal because you have a real star on the show. And they're doing the same thing with CM Punk. They're treating him like a gigantic star, which he is, obviously. He's a huge draw, and he's not on the show all the time. He wasn't on Raw this week. He was on SmackDown 2 weeks ago? When's the last time we even saw him? It was that promo on Raw a couple weeks ago with Seth, right? That's the last time. We haven't seen Punk since then.
That's right, yeah. Well, I mean, it's a 3-hour show. They have a big enough roster. They can live without Punk for a couple weeks. Like, we lived without Roman for how many weeks on SmackDown? Lucky we got him tonight, but it was a taped show. That's the only reason you really got to see him, because it was just leftovers from last week. But
yeah, but
you're not going to get Punk all the time.
When you don't have Roman on SmackDown, you have AJ Styles, you have LA Knight, you have Solo Sikoa, you have Jimmy Uso, you have Randy Orton now, like you have Rey Mysterio. You have stars on SmackDown to fill the gaps. What do you really have on Raw? The guys that they put out on Raw are just not that interesting. SmackDown has Kevin Owens now. Like, SmackDown is an embarrassment of riches of talent. If you look at that show, everybody's ridiculous. Dragon Lee is just there for some reason, excellent. There's so much talent on SmackDown. You go to Raw and you're watching Dominic Mysterio and JD McDonough wrestle R-Truth, and it was a fine match. It was what it was, but I don't care about any of it. It's all so inconsequential. The Miz is the guy they put up against Gunther. That's the best they can have. You have to watch Chelsea and Piper lose the tag team titles to Kaden and Katana, which I'm sure John is ready to bury. He's just itching to bury that match. Ivar and Tozawa is a match that actually happened on Raw this week. These are all matches on Raw this week. Ludwig Kaiser versus Jey Uso. I just don't care. I don't care about any of it. I don't care about the Creeds against Judgment Day. You really think I'm going to believe the Creeds are going to beat Judgment Day for the tag titles after we already saw a tag title change earlier in the show? They're going to do double tag title change with these new NXT tag teams? Yeah, right. I've watched too much WWE. You can't fool me with this kind of stuff. Their booking is predictable. Yeah. That's the problem with Raw, man. It's just nobody's that interesting. And if you look at what they have promoted for their big show, right? They have shows they're not on next week because it's Christmas Day and they're not doing SmackDown next Friday for some reason, right? There's no SmackDown next Friday. They're house shows. They're in Toronto, I think.
Everything's a house show. Yeah, they're in New York, MSG. They're in Toronto, and they're going to be in Laval.
Yeah, they're going to be in Laval or Montreal, as they call it, coming up on Thursday the 28th. Yeah, they're going to L.A. Punk's going to be at the L.A. and New York shows. I think wrestling Dominic. which,
Yeah, I think
by the
that's the
way,
plan. Yeah,
I predicted. I said his first match would be Dominic. Did I not?
you did. Well, I mean, that's not going to be televised yet.
So,
Anyways,
still.
technically, it will be the Rumble.
Yeah, but I mean, I knew they'd put him in there against Dominic. I knew it. They do it to everybody. Did it to Randy, did it to Cody, everybody. Everybody gets a turn with Dominic. Dominic gets to, learn from everybody, all the greats.
He's a good, crash test dummy, pretty much. Just do
Mhm.
whatever you want to him, kind of thing. So
Yep.
Randy did to him. But as much as we buried Raw a little bit there, like let's put over Raw a little bit because there was some
Why?
good Raw. It started off very well, actually. R-Truth and Judgment Day, that promo to start Raw was fantastic. I know you're a big fan of R-Truth.
Yeah.
And I thought his interaction with Judgment Day was like the best thing I saw on the whole show. That interaction, he had them cracking up like they weren't supposed to be laughing, but he had them laughing. And just the whole idea of him, like he still thinks he's in Judgment Day. That whole beatdown they did the week prior was just his initiation to the group. And they're like, no, it's not like that. But they're laughing. They can't stop laughing about it, which is fantastic. And it ends up the match. It's Truth against JD.
Yeah.
And the winner's in Judgment Day, the loser's out of Judgment Day.
Yeah, and Truth won. But they told JD he was still in Judgment Day afterwards, which I don't think is fair. Truth should be in Judgment Day. The problem is, I like it. I like that they're involving Truth. I like that they're making Judgment Day more entertaining, but they're also doing something with this serious group that they've gotten over to a certain extent and turning them into a comedy act, which is, I don't know if that's a positive for Judgment Day. Maybe it's a short-term thing, but like making Judgment Day laugh, I don't know if that's what you want to do. You might turn a babyface that way. Like if R-Truth actually joins Judgment Day, they become a babyface group pretty quick.
For me, like when I was watching it, it reminded me a lot of when Sammy made the Bloodline crack. You remember that when Jay couldn't stop laughing?
Yeah.
And then everyone just started laughing anyways. I think it was about it's too Uzi or something, right?
Yeah, well, Sammy turned the Bloodline babyface.
Yeah, pretty much.
He did.
And then got them to be heels once he turned on them. So, yeah.
Yeah. But
Truth, I might be able to pull it off again here, too.
Yeah, I don't know if that's what you want, but
to me, Judgment Day is kind of stale right now. They actually need something like this because it's just the same thing over and over all the time, and it's nothing really that great. Truth actually adds some interest to what they're doing.
Yeah. But I'm just not sure you want to turn a serious group into this comedy act. However, I do agree with you. It does give them some fresh air, and it makes them more interesting, more fun to watch.
It doesn't need to last long. It just, a couple of weeks until it gets to something bigger that happens with them because they're just going around circles doing nothing all the time. It's the same thing always, all the time. So R-Truth, it's something different, something refreshing. I'm a little concerned about his wrestling, though. I know it was like a backyard wrestling match. They did a street fight, but he looked very, rusty in that match. He hasn't wrestled in a year, so I give him a pass on that one, but oof, that looked rough for him. I don't know, him doing long matches is a good idea.
He's also 51.
Well, it really goes to show you, what a great athlete he is, and also come back from a major injury as well. There was a lot that he was fighting against in that one.
Yeah.
So I definitely give him a pass, but maybe don't put him in long matches right away and ease him more into it. I mean, we always see almost every week a 5-minute Raw match. I don't see why he couldn't have had that. The street fight didn't need to be that long.
They don't have much else, do they? That's the thing with Raw.
Yeah,
they just don't. Time. They don't have much else. Shout out Jason Pete, Angelo Contagones. I see you guys in the chat. Members of the team over at join.ringsidereport.net. Leor as well. What's up, Leor? Leor says, agree with Dave. Raw was tough to sit through this week. Also says, how do you guys feel about that new Iron Claw movie? I want to see it. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm going to go and try and see it. Yeah.
Because what was happening last Wednesday? Something was happening. Oh, because I went to the hockey game. I could have gone to the screening, but I went to the hockey game instead. Sorry,
Hmm.
guys.
I saw that the Canadians were on TV tonight. I saw on the guide that they were playing while SmackDown was on. Did they win?
It's not over yet, but I think
Oh
they're
yeah,
winning right now.
it's not over. Shouldn't it be over?
They're in Chicago. Time difference.
Oh, okay. Shout out
Yeah,
Angelo.
we're
Thank you for
fighting them.
checking in, Angelo, while the Habs are playing. Appreciate you. Jason Pete.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I see Jimmy James, Chris Topsy, Alex Tarras, Portier Concierge. A lot of people in the chat tonight. Doug Hepburn, of course, member of the team. What's up, Doug? He says he's watching us with the Canadians on mute. 3-2 Montreal.
Woohoo!
Shout out to AJ
Sounds
on the
good.
chat as well. I see AJ Franco 316. Thank you for watching us tonight on a Friday as we are back. I was off last week going to the Montreal Quintet Jiu-Jitsu show, which was fantastic. Congratulations to everyone who competed and put that great event together. Really good stuff. Really good stuff.
So, question about that. Like, how was that? Like, because it's like a Survivor Series kind of style, right?
Yeah.
How was that? Like, how that worked? Like, did that work for you? Like, did you find like that style could be something you could see in the future? Like, you could see that adopted by top like UFC? Like,
I don't think it would work for MMA.
okay.
It would be too brutal. I mean, I think it would be really tough for MMA. For jiu-jitsu, it makes sense. So it's like the two teams. Well, there were 4 teams, and it was like tournament style. So 2 teams face each other, right? So it's like 5 on 5, and then one guy goes in for one team, one guy goes in for the other team, right? So it was like, say, a guy from H2O went in against a guy from 10th Planet, and you have 8 minutes, and it's submission only. So whoever gets a submission, they stay on. Whoever gets tapped out, they're eliminated for their team. So then the next guy would come in. And if there's no submission after 8 minutes, it's a draw, and they're both eliminated. So it worked out really well. It was really fun. One guy was able to last, like, I think he tapped 3 guys. One guy from H2O, I think, tapped 3 guys. It was really impressive.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's the thing, right? You wanna get on the mat, tap somebody out, and then like not only win your first match, but if you can tap a second guy out, then you're really eliminating people. And quintet jiu-jitsu style is super fun because jiu-jitsu is really kind of already in teams with all the gyms and everything. So if every gym had like a 5-man quintet team that they came and used and maybe rotated some teammates in and out, I think that would be fun to have like a quintet jiu-jitsu league, like a professional quintet league. I think that would be great, but that would take a lot of organization. But yeah, the Montreal quintet that I went to last Friday with AJ and Freddie was really good, really well done. I'll definitely go to the next one.
They behaved themselves. That's good too. So they'd
AJ
be a
and
little out
Fred?
of control.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they did. They did.
Guys are growing up. It's good.
Yeah. Doug Hepburn dropping a super chat says, Team Dave, UFC pucks. I think he means UFC picks. I have been on fire with my UFC picks over the past few weeks. Last week I was...
UFC pucks would be nice.
UFC pucks, I don't know what that would be, but UFC picks, I think he means. Yeah, I've been doing very well. Team Dave. Unfortunately, no UFC until, I think, January something.
See, I was thinking about that. I'm like, man, Team Dave, Team Fred, that was pretty close on like who was right the most this past year. You guys were like almost neck and neck, I think.
Yes, I think you're correct. Fred had a lot of really good weeks too. If I wasn't winning, Fred was usually winning. And I know that AJ is watching right now, John.
Yeah, I know.
So please just say that again. Just say that again so AJ understands what you said. You said it, and you watched the show, Ringside Report MMA, and it's the three of us, AJ, Fred, and I. If people watching this don't watch the MMA show, so whose picks were the most winning this week or this year, John?
This year was I think you or Fred. It's debatable who. It was close, I think, between the two of you. I think AJ had the biggest bets in the sense, like the biggest cash out, I think, in terms of his like picks. But yeah, you guys in
But they
terms of
didn't
like
win.
consistency. No, well, when they did win though, it was huge.
Yeah, but it was so rare.
It wasn't as frequent. Yeah, wasn't as frequent. That's true. But he had huge payouts though when he did win though.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it though. You go for the big ones. It's harder to win.
Oh, now you're backtracking.
Go for the.
Now you're backtracking.
I'm not backtracking.
You are a bit.
Saying facts.
Are you scared of AJ or something?
Facts.
Don't be scared of AJ.
Same facts. That's it. You don't need to bury AJ.
So Dave and Fred definitely had the most victories.
Well, that's what I was wondering. I don't know if you guys kept track of that too.
Yeah, we're gonna start to keep track of that. I think in 2024, and the payouts and everything, just so we can keep AJ honest. So we have the numbers to back it up, you know? Necessary.
Well,
necessary.
I thought it was cool you guys did your year-end in review. It was a nice last show for the year for Ringside Report. I look forward to ours. I think ours is next week, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, we will be doing our year in review next week on the final episode of Wrestling Uncensored for 2023. I look forward to it. I was already thinking about match of the year in both companies, wrestler of the year. I'll give you a little preview right now. I think my wrestler of the year is LA Knight.
Wow.
It's been his year more than anybody else.
And anyone else in wrestling, period.
I think you're talking about Roman Reigns, maybe?
Well, I was thinking it's either Roman or MJF. I think the world champions right away when I think of that.
Yeah, MJF. I feel like MJF had a really good year. I think he was probably in the match of the year. But I feel like he caught fire before 2023. He was already over, and he's remained over, but this kind of latest version of MJF, I feel like, is it's not my favorite. The stuff with Joe and all this stuff, it feels like we're waiting around for something bigger or more important that's never coming along. This devil storyline has dragged, like, I don't know. I feel like MJF has ended off the year kind of not great. We'll see, maybe he'll prove me wrong on the 30th at World's End. Maybe they have something big planned, but he's hurt, I don't know.
See, that's the tough part, too. We have a year end, and there's still, like, an event right after we do that, too.
Yeah.
So they might blow us away with a match or something.
And we'll also be doing our preview show for that event, right? AEW World's End is next Saturday, the 30th.
They really cut it right at the end there. It's interesting how they pulled that off.
But I feel like LA Knight has had such an incredible year. Such a rise. Though, yeah. Very impressive.
No, 100%. Like, when I think of WWE, you're probably right with WWE, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, AEW, altogether, maybe though, MJF. Maybe MJF and AEW. As far as wrestler of the year, he's had a great year. Like I said, some incredible matches, great title defenses.
Great promos, too.
Yeah, well, of course. That goes without saying with MJF. What's really impressed me with MJF this year is the addition of the size and just the match quality has been so high. His matches get better and better. And the fact that he's bigger now, a little bit more jacked, it adds believability to his wrestling. Very good.
Well, also him, like, he's more of a face now, right? Or whatever, like tweener, whatever he is. But, like, he's still entertaining regardless. Like, I know maybe you're not a fan of the way he is now, but I still find his promos, like, that's the thing you want to watch the most on Dynamite, I find.
Yeah, probably. We'll talk about Dynamite a little bit later. I was not thrilled with Dynamite. Do you want to do your airing of grievances now, John? I know you have grievances. You got a lot of problems.
I heard a couple grievances about Raw.
Mm-hmm.
There are some more Raw grievances. I got more Raw grievances.
More
but
Raw grievances. I mean, what else can you say about Raw?
Well, just one more positive. And I know you kind of said like this wasn't great, but Ivar versus Tozawa was actually a really good match, actually. Like, Tozawa really showed himself in that match. I was surprised they gave him a bit of offense, and like it was actually kind of close-ish.
Mm-hmm.
They actually had some moments where like he might pull this off.
Mm-hmm.
So that actually was a surprise.
But this just seems dumb to me. Like, why?
Yeah, well, you didn't see Kofi Claus, which is
no, I saw that. I did see Kofi Claus.
You saw that.
And I did have a problem with it because Kofi just seems like a mascot for Jey Uso instead of an equal or a rival or anything. I didn't like that.
Well, it wasn't just the Jey thing that he did as well. He did that like throughout the show.
Okay.
Like, he was in segments with people like when Katana and Kaden Carter like won the tag titles. He was there saying, pretty much doing the whole New Day thing, the dance with them. And saying like, what do you want for Christmas? Like, oh, we already got the titles, and she's like, good answer, and then just walks away. Like, did we really need Kofi for that? But apparently we did. And then just Kofi walking around giving presents to people, and then getting kind of pushed around by Kaiser and Da Vinci. Like, we again just random nonsense from Kofi like throughout the whole night.
Yeah.
Like, I know you love New Day, but New Day for me, like the last couple of months, have to be like one of the worst parts of Monday Night Raw every week.
Well, they just don't do much with them. Their matches are good, but New Day without Big E just isn't the same. And that's just, it is what it is. Big E is not going to come back. And just without him, it's not the same. You can say it's New Day, but it's just Kofi and Woods. And it would be the same if Woods were gone. You could say it's New Day, but it's just Big E and Kofi. Without the three of them, that magic, it's just not there anymore. And they're hanging on to it, but I think it's time to move on from the New Day. Because it's just... There's nothing left, which is really sad. But it's just where it is. I think Kofi and Woods need a little bit of a refresh at this point. Let's talk a little bit about CM Punk. He hasn't been on the show in a couple of weeks. He's advertised to appear December 26th at Madison Square Garden, December 30th in Los Angeles for those live events. January 8th is when we'll see him back on TV, Raw in Portland, Oregon. And then we won't see him again until January 22nd for the Raw in New Orleans, which will be the final Raw before the Royal Rumble on the 27th, where, of course, he'll be in the Rumble and will likely win. I think CM Punk is going to win the Royal Rumble. I think CM Punk is going to face Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. I think we set that up in the promo a couple weeks ago. And that seems like the obvious move to me. I think it's going to be down to CM Punk and LA Knight at the end of the Royal Rumble. I think that's how it should be. Maybe Punk, LA, and Cody. Get the real contenders in there at the end. Make you wonder. I think the fans might get upset at Punk if he beats LA Knight and eliminates him. I think there may be some heat on Punk, which is exactly what you want going into a match with Seth Rollins. I think there's stuff you can do there with CM Punk. And that's where I would go. I think Punk and Rollins, they've already set it up. I think the only problem with Punk and Rollins is, I don't know what more Seth can say. He said everything you could possibly say. Where do they go from here post-Rumble? leading into Mania. They're going to have to cut some promos on each other. Seth can kind of say more, I guess, of the same, and Punk can fire back a little bit. You know, there's stuff. Seth did say a lot, though, and I wonder if he said like too much, where he kind of didn't leave that much left to say for the promos going forward, where he may have to kind of just repeat himself over and over, which we've seen before in WWE. You know, guys cut this one great promo at the beginning, and it's like, wow, that was cool. And then it's like, well, that's it. That's all I had. Nothing left to say. I hate you. You suck. You're going to break. You're going to fail. See you at Mania.
Huh.
You know? Punk obviously didn't say that much, so he could fire back and say some things, and maybe Seth can play off that, and we can have a good build towards WrestleMania. But I think it's basically set up at this point. Punk doesn't really need to do that many appearances. I think that's the immediate future for Punk. Big question is, does he win at WrestleMania? I think that's the biggest question. You know? I think it's clear to me he's winning the Rumble. He's never won the Rumble. He's going to challenge Seth, and it'll be Seth Punk for the World Heavyweight title main event of night 1. My only question is, does Punk win?
Well, I think I told you, like, I think it's going to be the Priest cash-in at Mania. I think that's what's going to happen. So,
yes,
that's
that
the
makes
way
sense.
you kind of
duck out of it.
And you get out, well, you duck out of it. You still keep Punk and Roman fresh for SummerSlam if that's the route they're going to go down. So, I think that's the way you go about it. I think that's what's going to happen, and we'll see it all come together a couple of weeks. Now, you're worried about what he could say in the promo. I mean, there's more material that they can steal from. You know, he didn't say "Cry Me a River" yet, so
yeah,
he didn't break any glass or anything. So, I mean, there's so much more they can steal. So, and you can talk about, you know, other things too, like just bringing up the things Punk said about Seth, like in the past on the WWE backstage show they used to do. Just bring up stuff like that. Like, he alluded to stuff, but he didn't elaborate. So that's probably what's going to happen. But yeah, Punk didn't really fire back yet, and I'm sure when he will, that's going to be explosive. So that might just be a week's worth right there, just him firing back.
And he doesn't have that many weeks to fill, right? He's got the 8th of January, wow. Then he doesn't come back until the week before the Rumble. Then he's got the Rumble. Maybe he's on the Raw after the Rumble.
Schedule.
Maybe not. Yeah, it's a very light schedule. Very light. Which
if he had this back 10 years ago, maybe he would have stayed.
Maybe. He's got a good deal, but I don't know. I don't love that he's on so infrequently. It's probably the best move for him, for his body, for the fragile ego, fragile body, fragile spirit, and all that, right?
Well, he was wrestling every week, or he was involved on Collision. We saw, like, he could do it every week pretty much.
Yeah, but he was getting hurt a lot.
Well, on Collision, he wasn't really getting hurt. Like, when he made his comeback, there was no injuries. Like, he was able to do it every week. So, you know, it's kind of too bad we're not seeing him being more active, but it's WWE. I'm not surprised. It feels like everything moves at a snail's pace all the time, so they don't really have anything for him at this point. Who else is he going to feud with besides Seth? You know, like you say, Dominic Mysterio, like that's one episode of Raw, so we're going to move at a snail's pace, and that'll get us through 1 month's worth to get us to the Rumble, probably. That'll probably be the one match we see, maybe. Maybe that week right before the Rumble, he'll get that match that they practice like 7-8 times before we even get to that Raw.
Yeah. How about at Mania? You say a cash-in, so who walks out as champion? Priest?
Oh, Priest does. Yeah, Priest. That way it's the whole, like, the revenge on Seth. Like Seth did it to Roman, now it happened to him. I think that's the way night one ends. You have Priest walk away as the world heavyweight champion. That's his reward for that great match. Bad Bunny, I mean, the good year that he had this year. I mean, you talk about LA Knight having a good year. Damian Priest, I think, should be up there as well.
And then post-Mania, Babyface Punk and Babyface Seth go after the Judgment Day out of revenge.
Yeah,
Backlash
maybe, sure.
for the tag titles.
I'm expecting a draft, though. I would think a draft, and Punk's going to get drafted to SmackDown.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what SmackDown is at that point. SmackDown's going to USA Network in 2024, right?
Yeah, but also we're getting Raw back in Montreal. I believe it's April 15th, not mistaken.
Yeah, I did see that. The WWE hasn't announced it yet, though. I think they'll probably announce it at the house show on Thursday, right?
Probably, yeah. I think they're waiting for that. But yeah, it got leaked.
Yeah.
That the Raw after the Raw for Mania, we're getting it back here in Montreal.
That's cool. I'll go to that.
It might be the draft. I mean, I believe in some year it happened like that. It was usually
that was a boring show. I think I've been to a draft show. It was not good.
Yeah,
nothing
happens really, especially on the Raw show.
Yeah,
but
I don't like the draft. They never work. I like superstar shakeups, pal. I think those are better. Superstar shakeup. So that's where Punk is headed, it seems like. Speaking of Raw, they have that big show they announced for January 1st, their next live Raw, the next episode of Raw. No Raw on Christmas Day. They're back New Year's Day. Seth Rollins defending the World Heavyweight title against Drew McIntyre. Rhea Ripley defending her Women's World title against Ivy Nile. Becky Lynch going one-on-one with Nia Jax, and Natalya and Tegan Nox against Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark.
Has Ivy Nile ever won a match on Raw?
I don't think so. I don't get it.
Did she get a title shot?
And then you compare that to what SmackDown is advertising, and for their show that week, right, on January the 5th, in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada.
They're calling it New Year's Revolution.
New Year's Revolution, they're calling it. They're doing LA Knight versus AJ Styles versus Randy Orton, where the winner faces Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble. And they also threw out a couple more matches for the show, right?
Well, I think we're getting the finals, right? Santos versus Kevin Owens.
Yes, Santos Escobar versus Kevin Owens.
And I believe Io Sky against Mia Yim for the Women's Championship.
Michin. And then I think also Butch and a tag team partner of his choosing.
Sheamus?
Yeah, I would think Sheamus against Pretty Deadly, because they had like a backstage encounter. And then Nick Aldis was like, Butch, find yourself a tag partner for a match in 2 weeks. And I was like, find yourself a tag partner? Aren't you? Is he not with Ridge Holland anymore, or is that guy just in NXT?
Yeah, I think he's just in NXT now, I think.
Okay. So maybe the returning Sheamus, pal, which would be pretty cool. Sheamus and Butch. I mean, just comparing the two shows, right? SmackDown obviously looks better.
Well, I'm thinking about day one now. Like, I mean, what isn't already been done, and then what new is really exciting? I can't think of anything really that great, sadly.
Yeah.
Yeah, lack of Punk hurts a lot. And Cody, like, what's Cody really doing?
Not booked for anything meaningful.
So that hurts a lot. So, yeah, SmackDown easily is a better show. Because, like, at least they have stars that can fill in for Roman.
Does Cody get Roman at Mania?
I feel like we're not going in that direction right now. If we do get it, I feel it's a triple threat. We talked about this, I think, right? Roman versus Cody versus LA Knight. That makes the most sense what to do if you're not getting The Rock.
Yep. And if you are getting The Rock, maybe Cody versus Randy.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an important thing too. Like, what does Randy do at WrestleMania? That's got to be an important match as well. So yeah, Cody would be good.
What does Randy do?
It's tough. I can't really think of many options for him. Like him against LA Knight, I don't think works. It's good for LA Knight to have that match, but for Randy, it's nothing really that great. And you don't
Sheamus?
want to do Randy, Drew McIntyre again. Yeah, Randy, Drew, Sheamus, it's all been done. I guess you could do Randy and Gunther, but I feel Gunther versus Brock is the way to go.
How about Logan Paul?
Versus Randy?
Yeah.
Eh,
It's big. It's a
I
big
guess.
spot. He could be the one to take the U.S.
Sure.
title from Logan Paul. Like, I don't know if Kevin Owens is going to do it at the Rumble, or even if it'll be Kevin. It'll be Kevin Owens. But I don't know if Kevin wins.
At the Rumble, yeah. Well, they're doing the whole thing with the hand thing. That's another part of the area of grievances is the whole cast thing. Like I think Kevin's had some great matches lately on SmackDown. Really adds again to how good SmackDown is.
Mm-hmm.
But the cast thing, I have a lot of problems with that.
Why?
Well, he won the match, the first match in the tournament last week against Austin Theory. That was amazing, by the way. But Black Taurus, we're watching Rampage right now. That was an incredible dive to the outside I just saw. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
It's weird. Sometimes you turn into Rampage and you're like these guys are
right
just
now.
so infrequently booked on AEW, and you're like, why are these guys here? Like, they're doing cool matches, but it's like what you were saying before. It's like a bunch of cool moves, but it doesn't matter because, like, this El Hijo del Vikingo, I've seen him a bunch of times in AEW. He's very talented. He's wrestling right now, but he's got zero stories in AEW. He has no character development. He's not really a guy on their roster, I don't think. He's just there from time to time doing cool moves. His moves are really cool, but, like, why? How does this advance AEW?
Oh, what are they trying now? Like, I'm kind of worried right now. Why did they do that? They didn't have to do that, but they did that.
Well, that's
The
what they
power
do.
slam on the outside.
They do. You don't have to do that, but they do it. I don't know.
Well, you have to understand too. Lucha Libre is kind of just chaos, really. Anything
Sure.
can happen at any time.
And I like it, and it's fine. But these guys are on AEW TV, and you wonder why.
Whoa. See, that's the thing about Vikino. Like, he'll pull off these incredible moves, and that's it. It'll just wow you with that. A lot of it might not make any sense, but it looks incredible. So.
But he's only there like once in a while.
Yeah. Well, he's the AAA champion, right?
So, what does that mean to me watching AEW?
It's a special attraction. That's it.
How? Like, AEW does this stuff all the time where it's like, it's cool, but it doesn't really advance anything in AEW. Like, they're very good. I'm entertained by it. But for the grand scheme of what AEW is trying to accomplish, I don't think it helps.
Oh, jeez.
Because when you buy a ticket for this show, you don't know if you're going to get these guys. When you tune into this TV show, you don't know that these guys are going to be on this show doing this stuff. You have no idea. Because with AEW, it's a complete mixed bag of wrestling. You never know what to expect from show to show. And you could say, well, that's great. It's unpredictable. It's like, yeah, but also you don't know what to expect. You may get some stuff you don't want, and the things you do want from AEW, you don't get.
No, it's a solid point. Sometimes you kind of need that stable, like what you expect to get kind of thing. That's where WWE, that's their strong point. They kind of set you up for a lot of things. So
stability.
Maybe it's predictable, but you know what you're getting, especially with the characters.
AEW
So
is
there's that.
it's all over the place. Jason Pete saying Hiel del Vikingo's character and story is all AAA Lucha Libre. Jason Pete is in Mexico, by the way, so he says people don't know them, just like Rush and Dragon Lee. I'm a massive Lucha Libre fan, but it's just not working building up wise. They had Mexico recently on AEW, and even people here in Mexico were thinking, "Oh,
Oh,
cool," but what the fuck? Yeah.
well, they're having a crazy match right now.
Yeah, I mean, the match is good, John. That's not what I'm saying. It's just that the match is good, but these guys aren't going to be wrestling at the next AEW pay-per-view. They're not booked at World's End. They're not in any AEW storylines. They're not even interacting with AEW wrestlers. Yet, they're main eventing this AEW TV show. Why?
They had nothing else really.
It's a big problem. It's a big problem. You don't have...
Oh, what the
Holy
heck
shit.
was
You just
that?
dropped him on his head.
Whoa.
And then I go, I'm not going to ask the wrestlers why they're doing this crazy stuff. I know why they're doing this crazy stuff. So they can get a WWE contract like Dragon Lee. Hey, maybe Triple H will see me on TV and be like, let's sign this guy. Come on.
Well, that's one side of it. Some people just love doing this.
Yeah.
They just love the head drop all the time.
Yeah. I wonder what's going
Airing
on with
grievances.
with AEW. You know, what does 2024 look like for AEW? Because I think they've stumbled at the end of this year. A lot of empty buildings, some nonsensical stories, the loss of CM Punk. It's just
the injuries.
The injury
really hurt them this year.
Well, the injuries, but also losing one of their top stars. One of the top stars in wrestling, and that guy going over to WWE hurt them a lot. Kenny Omega now has diverticulitis. He's going to be out for a long time. That hurts them a lot. Chris Jericho is aging. Sting is retiring. Bryan Danielson has said he's retiring. MJF has said he hasn't signed a new contract with AEW. So what does AEW actually look like in 2024? Do I believe MJF? Like, maybe halfway. I half believe him. Because I half believe that AEW would be so foolish as to have their world champion at the end of the year not under contract, so on January 1st, he could walk into Raw with their belt. I think that AEW is that company. Yes, I wouldn't put it past them. They had Jon Moxley, world champion, not under contract at one time. He could have left.
It's true. It's true, yeah.
He could have left with the belt. That's the fact. When he said that, Moxley revealed that in like an interview on his wife's podcast, I think like a while ago when he was talking about Punk and everything, right?
Punk, yeah.
But he said he was world champion, no contract. And all the wrestling people were like, "Oh, you believe what he said about Punk?" I was like, "Yo, AEW had their world champion not under contract? Are they the stupidest wrestling company ever? What the hell?" And like, if MJF is telling the truth, which, I mean, he might be. Imagine. He could walk into day one Raw, shake CM Punk's hand, be like, "Here, this is yours. I think you're the real world champion."
That won't happen, but.
Or just be like, "Hey, I thought you were the champion," and he walks in with the belt and have a match for it, you know, because why not? It's ridiculous. AEW, some of the moves that they're making these days, I go, oof. And now there's talk that the WWE is negotiating with Warner Brothers Discovery, which is the parent company to TBS and TNT, which is where AEW has their TV, which they have a TV deal expiring with them next year. So WWE is looking for a new home for Monday Night Raw, and they're negotiating with AEW's TV partner, where AEW incidentally has a deal running out next year. So maybe Warner Brothers Discovery likes being in the wrestling business, but now they realize they want to be in the big leagues, and they want Monday Night Raw on TNT on Wednesday night. And bye-bye AEW Dynamite, bye-bye Rampage, bye-bye Collision. See ya.
Well, didn't they say that it's not 100% Raw is going to stay on Mondays, apparently?
Of course.
Like, apparently they're open to not having it on Mondays. So
Sure.
imagine if they had Raw on Wednesdays. How that would really change the landscape a little bit.
Be rough for AEW. WWE in 2024 has the opportunity to crush AEW and possibly destroy them as a company. Remove their status as the number 2 in the business, at least. I don't think they're going to put them out of business, but I think that they could put a hurting on them so badly that people question their number 2 status.
Yeah. But, I mean, you got to remember still, I mean, regardless of that they have some weeks where it's kind of rough in terms of the attendance, they're still going to have that huge Sting retirement match. They've already sold, 13,000? Like, they're probably going to sell that one out, 15,000. Like, that's going to be a fantastic show. Like, I'm really looking forward. I wish that was the next pay-per-view, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, if they always do Wembley, like, that's going to be good business for them.
Yeah.
And they should actually look towards doing more events in the UK, because clearly there's a huge fan base for them there and people want them. So they should really give them as much as they possibly can. They could live off that for a lot. Like, I can't see them going out of business if they can always generate 60,000, 80,000 fans a year.
Right.
That's incredible.
I don't know if they can, though. I don't know if they can sustain that. They need star power. And right now, what is their star power? I think the big thing that is going to help AEW and possibly save AEW is Will Ospreay, because they have him signed coming in 2024. He's wrapping up his commitments in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and then he's going to show up in January, and then Will Ospreay's in AEW. But if they lose MJF, I think they're in real trouble. Like, even with the addition of Will Ospreay, because we're talking about losing the Stinger. I don't know where Darby's been. Oh, Darby's climbing Mount Everest, right? Hopefully
Everest.
he lives and comes back and is okay.
I hope so.
Right?
Hope he doesn't die.
It's dangerous.
Yeah.
So they need Darby back. Jungle Boy's been gone forever. I don't know if they're ever going to bring him back.
He might be the devil.
He might be the devil. Sammy Guevara, same deal. I don't know where he is, but at some point he'll come back.
Concussion.
Oh, yeah? Oof, that could be bad. But there's a lack of star power. The Young Bucks are kind of not around. FTR, infrequently used.
They're on Collision. They were on Collision this past week.
Yeah, but they're not on Collision every week, and they don't have anything meaningful going on.
Well, they were on Collision. They beat up Brian the Pirate in the Ring of Honor Final Battle. Like, they're doing pretty decent, actually. I could see them against the House of Black probably in a trios match at the pay-per-view with Mark Briscoe, I think.
Okay. It's something. The match will be all right. I just, there are signs for AEW that don't look good, right? Like, if you were to buy stock in AEW, I don't think it would have to be pretty cheap stock right now.
I mean, if you want to invest in, WWE or AEW, obviously WWE, but
yeah,
as a wrestling fan, though, I have to say, though,
yes,
like the last couple pay-per-views, like Full Gear And even this one, World's End, like I'm interested. Edge versus Christian again, no DQ. Samoa Joe MJF, like yeah, you sold me.
Yeah.
Just 2 matches.
And I think pretty consistently, from a critical standpoint, AEW is a better show. I like AEW better than the
Which
WWE
show?
for the most part. I'd say Dynamite is better than either Raw or SmackDown on most weeks, and I would say that the AEW pay-per-views, albeit being quite long, tend to be more entertaining and more filled with really top-level wrestling matches compared to the WWE shows, which, you got some good matches here or there, but it's a lot of fluff. I think AEW had much better pay-per-views compared to WWE's premium live events this year as a whole. I think AEW has some of the better wrestling in the world. It doesn't mean they're making all the right decisions. Doesn't mean their booking is the best. Doesn't mean their promoting is the best. There's some problems there. But I think the quality of the wrestling has been number one. In the ring, I think the in-ring product has been better than any other company.
Yeah, it's tough to say. I just feel like WWE, like their PLEs, it's more consistent. Like maybe they're not the best, but they're usually not bad. They're usually pretty good. And with AEW, it's kind of like it's either really good or it's like this is taking forever. Why is it taking forever? Like that's been the problem I think with some of the AEW pay-per-views. Like albeit good, but some of those matches like didn't need to be like forever long like they were. Like I didn't even watch Wrestle Dream this year just because like I felt it was going to be way too long, and I remember you saying it was way too long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have had problems with the length of their shows, for sure. But a lot of them have been pretty good, and some of the matches have been really good. I want AEW to survive. I think that we can all agree, as WWE fans and AEW fans, but especially as WWE fans, that since AEW has come into existence, WWE has had to improve. I mean, if you remember WWE before AEW existed, it was pretty damn stale.
Well, I find this year especially like WWE really like picked it up. Like
Yeah.
they really turned it around. It seems like it felt like things got better. Like yeah, we had some moments where it kind of got rough, and it still gets rough every now and then. But I feel like it's not as long those rough periods.
It's almost as if they had a crazy old billionaire kind of slowing them down for the past few years, and they needed to have him cease being in total control to really make things work. What?
Yes and no.
How could you say that about me? God damn it.
I mean, it's just the way things are formatted. Like Raw is just way too long every week. There can be some great moments, but for the most part, Raw is always just way too long. SmackDown, for the most part, is usually pretty good. This is the way it should be every week for WWE. 2 hours,
Yeah.
and decent amount of action, some good storytelling. That's
Lots
all you
of
really
stars. SmackDown tonight
Raw
was
is
solid. SmackDown tonight
yeah, it
started
was
with
good.
AJ Styles doing a promo, and then LA Knight and Randy Orton, and they all won a title match against Roman at the Rumble, and then Nick Aldis set up the triple threat for the 2 weeks from now, and then you had Bianca, Michin, Zelina, and Shotzi versus Io, Kyrie, Asuka, and Bayley,
Oof.
which wasn't the best, but it was what it was. And then Dragon Lee and Butch, which was a solid match. Kevin
It was
Owens
good,
and
yeah.
Carmelo Hayes, which was pretty good.
Good except the finish. Again, like Kevin, like the cast, like I was on my grievances. Like he used the cast to win previous week. That should have been a DQ. And he did a clothesline with the cast. Again, that should have been a DQ. Like you can't use a cast like that. But the things they just kind of let slip. Like you notice too, like they do the whole thing. Like someone comes out, like distraction, whatever. And people just stand in the ring, like, oh, what are you doing? Like Bayley did it this week, and last week it was the Creed brothers when Nakamura came out and jumped Cody afterwards. It's like you just made the save, and now you just stand in the ring like a moron. Like Bailey's in there, like, just, oh, what are you doing? Like, why would you do that? Like, you just totally destroy her, like, make her look like a chump. And then they go on and lose the match in a dumb way. Terrible finish, by the way, in that Bobby Lashley Santos Escobar match. That was atrocious. That almost felt like the match was really that bad too. Just slow and like
Yeah.
that finish was just like, let's just get out of this.
Yeah, Humberto Carrillo and Angel Garza jumped the Street Profits, who were ringside, and then Bobby was distracted, and Santos kind of rolled him up, but the pin was real awkward. It looked weird.
It just looks slow, and he's trying to hold the tights, and the ref clearly saw it, but they counted 3 anyways, and it's like, this is bad. And it's too bad. Again, there was some good parts in the show. Oh, and your favorite tag team, Fire and Dawn, showed up, right? Yeah, they showed up and cost damage control that match.
Yeah.
Heels cost heels matches, but whatever. Like, sure. That's what happened.
Are they heels? Maybe they're baby faces. They attack damage control.
I felt like they were heels, but okay, sure.
I don't know. I don't really care about them. Karrion Kross cut like a promo, and he kind of teased the Authors of Pain being with him. I don't know why he's still a thing.
Well, it's good the Authors got a chance back. Like, we really didn't get to see much of them. They were with Seth Franklin and was Buddy Murphy for a bit, and then they just disappeared.
Yeah. So they're giving Karrion Kross some goons. And then the main event was AJ Styles getting the win over Solo Sikoa when Roman Reigns attacked him. Randy Orton made the save. Then Jimmy Uso jumped in. Then LA Knight made the save. And they cleared the ring of the bloodline. And then AJ and Randy and LA kind of argued. And then they started fighting each other because they have a triple threat match that they are promoting there to close the show, which was a kind of, cool finish, cool main event. AJ against Solo Sikoa. It was not the most exciting episode of SmackDown. It was a taped SmackDown. They taped it last week, but it was a solid wrestling program. I didn't hate it whatsoever. And AJ Styles has a new look, and he was a little frosty with his Good Brothers. The Good Brothers are like, "Hey AJ, how you doing? Are we good? We haven't heard from you for a while." And he's like, "Well, I don't know. You tell me." And he's like all mad, and he's wearing a jacket now, and he's wearing jeans. He's like mad AJ. He's not quite a babyface, but he's not quite a heel. He's just AJ.
As long as he, keeps the hair out of his face, doesn't have to be emo AJ, it'll be fine. But I thought the best part of SmackDown was the Roman Reigns, Nick Aldis sit down that they had. That was great. I really love that, how they established Nick Aldis and how the way he is. Like, it just felt like two heels, like, going at each other.
Yes.
Like, I really liked the way they established that.
I liked Roman telling him, you got to run matches by me. You can't just make matches. You got to tell me about it. I'm the tribal chief. You don't understand how things work. And Nick Aldis is like, I don't listen to you, Roman. I'm the GM. I'm Brutus Magnus. Don't you know me?
Well, I think he's like, I'm a executive. Adam Pearce, he's kind of like bottom tier.
Right.
He handles things differently.
So yeah, that was SmackDown tonight. I thought it was a solid show, and we have LA Knight, AJ Styles, Randy Orton set up for that New Year's Revolution SmackDown. Are you thinking, like I am, that it'll be Randy Orton getting the win there and Randy versus Roman at the Rumble? Seems like the most likely outcome.
I mean, most likely, but I mean, they could hold off Randy for Elimination Chamber because that's a big one too, right? In Australia.
And then AJ Styles instead?
So maybe do AJ at the Rumble and then do Randy at the Chamber or vice versa. Mm-hmm. I mean, it all works really, right? Just LA's sadly not going to win, I guess, unfortunately. But he'll get a title shot eventually again.
Yeah, I think LA Knight might be the guy to take the World Heavyweight title away from Damian Priest.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. That'd be cool to see.
Which could open the door to an LA Knight CM Punk program, which I think would be fun too.
Well, they teased a lot of stuff with Punk, which is fun.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to do with Punk because he's fresh to this roster, right? So many fresh matchups, new matches. Are you fine with Raw going on to a different night? Monday Night Raw, it's kind of a tradition. It's never been on any other night. SmackDown's been on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, whatever, but Raw, it's a staple on Monday nights. I think Mondays will feel weird if Raw's not on.
Yes and no, because like it's just not the Raw that it used to be. Like I don't have that anticipation anymore where it's like, oh, I gotta watch Raw. I mean, it helps now where it's like, oh, I can just watch it later thanks to Sportsnet Plus. You can just watch Raw whenever you want, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's very helpful, of course. But I don't. Every week I'm not like I'm dying to watch Raw all the time. When I had that feeling like, oh, what's gonna happen on Raw? Then yeah, then it feel kind of weird. Monday doesn't feel right. But now it's like, if it makes the show better, please move it because I'd honestly almost want Raw to be canceled because it's that bad right now.
Well, I would like to see Raw. I mean, I would like to see Raw move back to 2 hours, possibly, with the new TV deal for Raw, wherever they land.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. If you're AEW and Raw moves to Wednesday nights, say they're not with Warner Brothers Discovery and AEW gets a new deal with Warner Brothers Discovery. I don't know where AEW is going to land in 2024, what their new, or 2025, I guess, what their new TV deal is going to be. But, like, say Raw goes Wednesday nights to really go up against AEW. When AEW is going for their new TV deal, do you stand firm and say, yeah, let's go up against Raw and let's stay on Wednesday nights? Or do you say, well, let's just fill the void on Mondays and switch to Mondays? I think, honestly, like, the ballsy thing to do would be like, no, we're staying on Wednesdays, we're holding our ground, whatever. But I think the smarter thing to do for AEW, if Raw were to move to a Wednesday night, I think the smarter thing to do would just be to be like, all right, we're just going to move Dynamite to Mondays.
Monday or Thursday. I could see either or.
Yeah. I think they just say, okay, we don't want this. We're moving.
I mean, if anything, it might help with Collision. Maybe you could bump Collision to Mondays and then Dynamite on Thursdays.
Yeah.
That might be better.
Yeah. Collision. AEW has entirely too many TV shows.
I watched Collision last week. I thought it was an excellent show.
It's a good show, but, it's hard to watch every week. It's hard to watch all the AEW shows every week. They're just kind of, 2 hours here, 1 hour here, 2 hours here. And they don't always give you a reason to watch because they don't promote things that well. And you don't really know what's on the shows. I know Collision tomorrow has Bryan Danielson and Claudio Castagnoli, and it is live in San Antonio, Texas, where Bryan trained to wrestle at the Shawn Michaels School of Wrestling, right? So that'll be a cool match there. Bryan Danielson versus Claudio Castagnoli in San Antonio. Brody King versus Daniel Garcia. And Andrade El Idolo versus Eddie Kingston as the AEW Blue League wraps up. You want to talk about AEW airing of grievances? I've got some grievances about this.
Well, before you get
Classic.
to that, you get to that though, the Blue League though, it's highly interesting right now how it could all end up. I mean, it's very close with a lot of the contenders right now.
Yes.
So I'm very interested to see how this is gonna wind up tomorrow.
Yes, these are the final matches, and a lot depends on the result of every single match. All these matches are important to figure out who is going to win this thing and wind up in the final for each for the Blue League. Andrade El Idolo has 9 points. Bryan Danielson has 9 points. Brody King has 6. Eddie Kingston has 6. Claudio has 6. Which means that if Claudio wins against Bryan Danielson, he would be up tied for the lead with 9.
Right.
But will 9 be... I guess 9 would probably be enough no matter what. Because even if Andrade wins and has 12 points, he still has to face the second place person. And if there are 2 second place people, they must wrestle each other.
Triple threat.
It's a triple threat, right?
Yeah.
Moxley, Swerve, and Jay White wound up tied with 12 points in the Gold League, and they'll wrestle a triple threat, I think, on Dynamite Wednesday?
On
right?
Wednesday, yeah. That's what's going to happen, yeah.
Cool. Which I wasn't aware of this, that they had
I know
a
a lot of
final
people weren't
match.
aware of this.
Right?
Yeah.
Because to me, it's like, well, you win. Whoever has the most points wins the group, and then the group winner moves on to face the other group winner, and that's the final match. Not whoever has the most points faces the second place person. Like, that's not how the G1 works. I thought we were doing G1 rules. Instead, we have these weird AEW Continental Classic rules that I don't like. Because then it opens up like possibilities where you can have like, well, there's a fatal 5-way to determine who wins. It's like, wait a second, there's only 6 guys in this group. You're gonna have 5 of them reach the finals? How does that make sense? I mean, I don't even know if that's possible, but I think it might be. Like if Brody King, if Claudio beats Bryan Danielson, and Brody King, who's he wrestling again? Brody King is wrestling
Andrade? No, he already wrestled Andrade, actually.
Yeah, he's wrestling Garcia.
Okay.
So if Brody King beats Daniel Garcia, Garcia has 0 points, right? So if Brody King beats Daniel Garcia, and Claudio Castagnoli beats Bryan Danielson, and Eddie Kingston beats Andrade El Idolo, then Claudio would have 9 points, Eddie Kingston would have 9 points, Andrade El Idolo would have 9 points, Bryan Danielson would have 9 points, and Brody King would finish with 9 points. So we would have a fatal 5-way for the finals of this stupid-ass tournament, which is so dumb when you have a 6-man group, but 5 of the guys reach the final. What was the point of all these matches? What was the point of counting points? If they're tied, you go to who won the matches between them as a tiebreaker, and, you figure it out that way. Like the Gold League, right? Jon Moxley wrestled Swerve and beat Swerve.
Right.
So Swerve should be eliminated.
But
Swerve beat Jay White.
Right.
And Moxley lost to Jay White.
Exactly.
Jay White beat Moxley. So yeah. Okay. I guess it kind of makes sense. They might do that in G1 too. If it wound up that way, they'd probably have another match to kind of determine. But the Blue League possibly finishing in a fatal 5-way seems to make the round robin matches that we have watched over the past several weeks seem redundant. Pointless.
I see your view on that. I just don't know if we're going to get a 5-way. I like the potential.
But we could
possibly happen.
We could tomorrow, right? And Daniel Garcia sitting there, 0 points, losing to everyone, hasn't won a thing. Everybody just beating up on him. He'd be the only guy not in the finals in the Blue League. Pathetic.
Well, I think he's going to win, though. Because, like you said, Brody already has 9 points, right? So
no, Brody has 6.
Brody has 6? Okay. Well, Brody should win, actually.
You're going to need 9 points. You're going to need 9 points to get into the finals because Bryan and Andrade already have 5, so they're in. Now, Claudio will wrestle Bryan. It could go to a draw, which would leave Claudio with 7 points and Bryan with 10. which would leave Bryan in. Andrade is
Claudio
wrestling. Who did I say Andrade was wrestling?
Is it Eddie Kingston?
Yes, it is Eddie Kingston.
That'll be an interesting match.
Yeah. But if Eddie Kingston beats Andrade, he's in the finals. With Andrade and Bryan Danielson. Unless Claudio wins. If Claudio wins, then he's also in the finals.
Right.
And if Brody King wins against Daniel Garcia and he gets 9 points, then he's also in the finals.
It's very interesting. Like,
many different possibilities. There's how do we get to just a one-on-one match in the finals? I think Bryan would have to win or draw with Claudio.
And Andrade, I think.
Andrade would have to win or draw with Eddie Kingston. And Brody King would have to... it doesn't
He'd be
matter.
out. Yeah, it didn't matter.
He would be out.
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So if Bryan and Andrade win or draw, time limit draw, it's just one-on-one Bryan and Andrade. But it could also be a fatal 5-way. Claudio could beat Bryan and make it a 3-way. If Daniel Garcia beats Brody King and Andrade beats Eddie Kingston is probably going to make it in the finals, though, because he put his Ring of Honor world title up for grabs, and at the beginning he was losing matches, and it looked like he was not going to go anywhere in the tournament, and now all of a sudden he's got a chance with a win over Andrade, who's been dominant in the tournament, who's the only man to beat Bryan Danielson in this tournament. With a win over Andrade, Eddie Kingston punches his ticket to the finals, which I think he's going to do. I think we'll see Eddie Kingston get a win over Andrade to get to the finals. Prediction time, John. I think Eddie Kingston beats Andrade.
Yep.
I think Claudio and Bryan draw, because we haven't seen a time limit draw yet in the tournament, and this is the perfect time to do it. I think Brody King loses to Daniel Garcia because Garcia has to win one. Although Jay Lethal didn't win a single match in the Gold League. So I think it'll be Andrade, Bryan, Kingston, triple threat.
I don't know, but I would say 4-way, because we already have a triple threat the other side, right? So I'd say a 4-way, and Brody wins his match.
Okay. I could see that too, but I think maybe you give one to Daniel Garcia. Either way.
Yeah, you could, but I say no.
All right. So either a 3-way or a 4-way. Neither of us predicting a one-on-one match for the final. We'll see what happens tomorrow night live in San Antonio. It's definitely interesting to see how they book it, right? What are they going to do?
I'm definitely looking forward to this. I mean, now we're pretty much off WWE until next year, right? So now AEW's got my full attention pretty much. And yeah, this is very interesting. I don't believe there's anything really going on tomorrow because everything's kind of closing up now because for the holidays.
Yeah, there's no UFC. I'll probably watch Collision 2 tomorrow night.
Collision's got all the eyeballs this week.
Got to watch the Festivus edition of Seinfeld tomorrow, and then Collision, I guess. Right. Do you think MJF is going to stay in AEW in 2024? Or will he go to WWE?
I think so. I think he's kind of already made up his mind, but he's just playing it up that he hasn't. But I think he's going to stay with AEW. I mean, it just makes more sense for him. I mean, he's the top guy in AEW. Like, he's only just starting his reign. And it feels like in WWE, you kind of get lost in the shuffle.
You also get turned into a gigantic star. WWE recognizes the potential. They would pay him a ton of money. And it is also the way to get to Hollywood. It's the ticket to the next level, which I think MJF wants.
I mean,
I
he's
could
already
see him.
there in a sense.
Yeah, he is, but he isn't quite there. I could see him going to WWE.
Yeah, maybe one day. I just don't feel like now's the time. I feel like now he's on top of the world in terms of AEW, and like he already went to Hollywood, like you said. Just see what he can do now. What I'm thinking is don't sign an incredibly long-term deal. Maybe just sign for 3 years.
3 years is a long time. A lot of things can happen in 3 years.
He's only like 26, 27. Like,
Still,
he still has a lot of time.
you can get hurt in any match. I would
course.
I
He's
would
already
cash in
hurt.
now. I would go for it, man. I would go for WWE now. If it's the ultimate dream for MJF, I would go for it now. I don't know why you would wait. I think WWE would book him strongly.
Yeah, but would he be winning the Royal Rumble? I don't think so.
Well, not this year, but maybe next year. Why not?
Well, he can wait then. Obviously, if they're not ready for him. That's what it sounds like.
I mean, if MJF, if anybody would beat Roman to be the eventual guy to beat Roman, I think it would be a guy like MJF, a guy in his 20s. You know he's going to be able to carry the ball into the future. WWE doesn't really have that.
If WWE had built MJF like AEW has, yes, but they didn't make MJF. AEW did. So that's why it would take them years just for them to make him into what they want. So that would take time. So he's not going to be the champ right away. And that's kind of the problem. He's already a top guy. Why wait?
Look how fast LA Knight has been made into a star. Look how, CM Punk was big right off the bat. Cody Rhodes was big right off the bat in WWE. And Cody Rhodes wasn't made in WWE. He was made outside. And as soon as he came into WWE, Impact player, main eventer. I don't think that's true what you're saying about MJF.
They had to give him the Rumble, though. And they had to give him the big feud, which he just dominated over Seth over.
Yeah, so they could do that for MJF too. Why not?
But it still took, what, a year? And then even when he got to Mania, he still didn't win, so we're still kind of back at square one with Cody. Where it's like, oh, he has to do it all over again. People have kind of lost faith in him a bit.
Mm-hmm. But again, all these guys are the same age as Roman Reigns. I don't think you have Roman Reigns drop the title to any of his peers. You have Roman Reigns drop the title to the future. MJF is the future. MJF is much younger than Roman. All these guys, Cody, Seth, LA Knight is older than Roman. All these guys people want to see beat Roman Reigns, they're all Roman's age or older. They're not the future, right. They're the present. So you want Roman Reigns to drop to the future. And Austin Theory's not cutting the mustard. So if you're WWE, you want to sign a guy like MJF, who is the future of professional wrestling, who you can put over Roman and have confidence in him being your top star for the next 10 to 20 years. That's the move to make. Seems obvious to me. Like, he's the only guy, when I look across pro wrestling, he's the only guy in his mid-20s as a top main event star. The only one. Everybody else is in their mid-30s, early 40s, 50s. Some of them.
Well, he's the only guy that could just jump in there and be like, you believe in that. There's other guys around that age, but you wouldn't believe in them as much. Like it was Sammy Guevara, you wouldn't believe in him as much. Darby Allin, you wouldn't believe in him as much. Although Darby's fantastic.
Yeah.
In WWE, sadly, Land of the Giants still somewhat. So, wouldn't really work out for Darby, sadly.
No, but MJF has got some size and he can talk. He's got that entertainment value, which they love.
Yep.
He is a WWE superstar. I think it's just a matter of time. We'll see. Angelo Contagonis says, who do you guys have in the finals of the Continental Classic? So who wins the gold? Who wins the blue? I think they're going to put Eddie Kingston over in the Blue League, and I think he'll probably wind up facing Moxley in the finals. Or Swerve? Possibly Swerve? I think Swerve might win the whole thing. They've been pushing Swerve hard.
Well, the original prediction was Bryan Danielson and John.
Right.
That's what we originally had, I think. If I'm not
Right.
mistaken. It was Danielson Moxley.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel Danielson, it makes a lot of sense. But against Moxley, it's kind of been done. So maybe Swerve. Swerve against Danielson. I could see that.
Okay. I think they're going to do Eddie Kingston and Swerve. I think that's going to be my prediction, and Swerve is going to win.
I mean, it's okay. It's just, I mean, if Eddie's not winning it, does he have to make it to the pay-per-view? I mean, it sells better as Swerve against Danielson, does it not?
Oh, the finals are on the pay-per-view?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then Danielson, yeah, for sure. You need Danielson on the
Okay.
pay-per-view. Otherwise, what's Danielson doing on the pay-per-view, right?
Well, that's another thing, yes.
Because you got to book him.
See,
So, that's his booking.
And Moxley can wrestle Jay White, because now they've wrestled each other before, and Moxley didn't get the win, so now he can get the win back on the pay-per-view, so you do that.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that makes way more sense. Forget Eddie Kingston. I thought they were really trying to push Eddie Kingston. I think the push for Eddie Kingston would just be getting to the Blue League final. You are right. You are correct, John. I'm changing my mind. Bryan Danielson versus Swerve. And Swerve is going to beat Bryan Danielson on pay-per-view. Another big win for Swerve. I think 2024 is going to be massive for Swerve. He may become AEW World Champion. I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. I think he's been steadily improving in every aspect of pro wrestling throughout 2023. He's a strong contender for Wrestler of the Year in AEW, for sure. Just what he's done, the matches he's had, the character development, the progression. So much around Swerve now that's really working. His little promo with MJF this week on Dynamite was good. I'm enjoying Swerve. He likes my son's dances. You know? that got over fantastic. With me, right? Yeah.
That was fantastic. Yeah. I enjoyed that. I find with AEW, you see it more where it's like people having their best years. Like MJF, Swerve, Christian. You can even say to an extent Moxley too had a pretty good year as well.
Of course.
So there's a lot of top in terms of like who were the best in AEW. They actually had quite a few guys.
Mm-hmm.
And again, in terms of the matches, quite a few good matches. Like I'm sure your match of the year for AEW is going to be different than mine, but I think we both agree that they were both fantastic matches.
Yes, and we will reveal those matches next week on Wrestling Uncensored. This week on Dynamite, Swerve beat Roosh to get 3 more points in that tournament. Chris Jericho did a very serious backstage promo talking about Kenny Omega and how sick he is, and the Golden Jets not going to get their tag title shot at the World's End, and wishing Kenny a speedy recovery. So I don't know what Jericho does now. Maybe nothing for the time being, as Kenny is out. And I don't know what happens with their tag title shot or the tag champions or anything. Does Jericho get a different partner and face the Big Cass and Ricky Starks, or no?
I mean, there's a bunch of ways they could do this, right? You either just throw FTR into the tag title match, just do that. That always works. It's the former champions getting their shot, right? Rematch match. Jericho just gets a mystery partner or whatever, former partner from the past. Could get Big Show. Could get Edge if Edge wants to do double booking. That could be kind of interesting.
Or Christian. Christian was his partner too.
Christian was his partner too, yeah. I think Christian's going to get beat up though, so I don't know if Christian will work out too well.
Yeah. I don't know. Wishing Kenny a speedy recovery. Hopefully, Kenny Kenny is feeling all right, and he's got diverticulitis. I remember Brock Lesnar had that; it was really serious. And
He's out for like a year, no? Brock?
yeah. He did come back and fight in the UFC though, so hopefully Kenny's able to come back to pro wrestling. But seems pretty bad. And Jericho talking about it made it seem like even worse. Just the tone from Jericho, it seemed quite serious. Samoa Joe cut a promo in the ring, and he was kind of questioning MJF about why the goons seemed to attack him, but nobody ever saw the goons attack him. He's just kind of left laying, and MJF is like, hey, the goons surrounded you, Samoa Joe, but they didn't attack you, and maybe you're the devil, and then they kind of get into it, but then the goons come out, and it's tons of goons, and MJF kind of beat them up and toss them out of the ring, but never, ever do they ever grab one of these men that they're physically assaulting and just destroying. Do they ever grab them and pull a mask off? Who are you? Who sent you? Who do you work for? Who's the devil? You would think that if you're so hell-bent on figuring out who these mystery goons are that keep attacking you and who this devil person is, that when you finally get your hands on one of these people, and not only get your hands on them, but you could just kind of toss 10 of them out of the ring so you could easily grab one of them, pin them down, and pull a mask off. They never even think to do that, never even attempt to do that. Ridiculous.
Well, there was too many, though. I mean, would it matter?
Come on.
It was clearly just hired goons.
Hired goons. Reveal one of them might give you a clue. Hey, isn't this Sammy Guevara's cousin? Something.
I guess. I mean, a lot of those guys who just got in there, it was clearly just scrubs.
Yes, of course, John, but that's not the point. The point, and we all know they're jobbers and not really associated with the devil or any of this, but when there's this big mystery and you have the opportunity to unmask some of these mystery goons, wouldn't you try in a real situation?
Sure, but I mean, there was just so many of them. It was kind of ridiculous where it's just they were throwing guys out more than when they were just coming in. So it just felt awkward almost. And the guys that were actually the established goons, they never actually get a chance to attack them or whatsoever because they just come up on the apron and the lights go out. There's never any really interaction with them.
And there is a challenge made for the Ring of Honor tag titles that MJF and Samoa Joe will defend against the Devil's Goons on Dynamite, which I think was advertised for the Dynamite we had here in Montreal a couple weeks ago and never wound up happening, so I'm skeptical.
Yep. Well, we'll see. I mean, it's going to be fun seeing guys try to wrestle with a mask and make sure it doesn't come off. That'll be interesting.
Are we going to get a reveal of this devil thing? Because at this point, we're going into the final Dynamite before World's End, the final Dynamite of the year. Do we get a reveal of the devil on this Dynamite or at World's End? Do we finally get a reveal next week? Because if we don't, I've had it. I'm going to get really upset with AEW and Tony Khan because there's a certain amount of time you can drag something out for, and they're reaching their expiration date here. Either do it or don't. If it's Jungle Boy, make it Jungle Boy. I don't care anymore. That's a problem, too. I remember when this devil thing got people talking. Who is it? Could it be CM Punk? Could it be Jungle Boy? Could it be? Everybody was talking. Everybody was excited. Now, it's yeah, who's the devil? I don't know. Probably Jungle Boy or whatever. Who cares? No one cares. The interest died down a lot when CM Punk showed up in WWE. People were like, oh, well, it's not Punk. So who could it really be? How interesting can it really be? And now it's just kind of dragging on. And you go, can you just tell us already so we can know and we can move on from this story? Right? It was hot at one point. It's not hot anymore.
Well, I think it's
they haven't revealed.
Well, I think we talked about this at Full Gear. if I'm not mistaken, right? Like I said, like this can't go on for too long because eventually people are going to lose interest, and that's kind of what's happened now. So
Mm.
now at World's End, you kind of need that reveal, I think, or at least give us some better idea of where it's going. Like these goons, whoever should get revealed, so that might help give us ideas because something needs to happen here at World's End, which again makes it very interesting for the pay-per-view. You're expecting something's going to happen, so they need to deliver.
They do. Riho beats Saraya to get a title shot at Toni Storm at World's End this week on Dynamite. Riho gets another title shot on pay-per-view. Cool. I saw people like saying Riho's like terrible. She's small. She couldn't beat anybody up. And Kenny Omega's on Twitter defending her like Riho could beat you up. And I'm like, who are these grown men that Kenny Omega thinks Riho could beat up? Like, really? She weighs like 90 pounds. I mean,
well, I think he's just putting her over as she's tough, right?
I'm sure she's tough. She's a good wrestler and all, but he's like, Riho could beat you up. And I'm like, how weak of a man are you where Riho's beating you up? Who's Riho beating? How weak of a woman are you that Riho's beating you up? She's so tiny. Like, she's cool. She's good at wrestling and everything. I just don't think she could beat a lot of people up. I don't buy her winning a lot of fights. You know? She weighs less than the smallest weight class in the UFC. Like, I don't know if she's 115 pounds. She might be 115 pounds walking around, but even the women that fight at 115 pounds in the UFC, they cut weight to make 115. They're not even walking around at 115. I'm saying Riho is really small. And for Kenny to be like, she could beat you up to random people on Twitter, I go, I mean, if that's true, Kenny, by God. Crazy.
Well,
anyways, Riho won. Big win for Riho, beating Paige, Saraya.
Well, I thought the match, I was more entertained by Toni Storm's announcing or commentating. She was hilarious on comment. I don't know if you caught a lot of what she said.
The human duplex machine I caught, which was really good.
The human duplex machine was very good. Calling Taz a landlord, yeah, that was great.
Which is funny to me. About how... I wonder, sorry, John, but I just wonder where she got that from, because every time I try to type suplex in my phone, it autocorrects to duplex, and I'm like, no. So I wonder if that's where that came from, because that happens a lot to me, because I write the word suplex a lot on my phone to people or to things, right? And it switches to duplex all the time. I wonder if that's where... Anyways. Sorry, go ahead. Toni Storm is great. She's funny.
But she had that funny line, too, like, oh, speaking of tits out, here's Saraya right here.
Oh, God. Did you say that?
Hilarious.
I missed that.
She said that. She also said something about how, like, like Saraya's angry. I guess it's her time right now. Yeah, we always used to be on the same time, all of us. And then, like, I think, was it Excalibur said, like, oh, so you guys had watches? And then, like, Shivani's like, no, she doesn't mean something like that. It's not the same thing.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Cool.
That was pretty good. Just hilarious stuff like that.
Toni Storm is off the wall, for sure.
A little bit. But the gimmick works. It's the best thing they have going right now in the women's division. I think it's fantastic.
It's the most developed character they have in their women's division, for sure. And she's done it pretty much all her own, which I think you have to do in that division because they don't seem to put a lot of emphasis on character development. I mean, look at Riho. I don't know very much about her, if anything at all. Have you noticed, too, that they kind of cycle in Shida and Riho? Like, when Shida's there's no Riho, and then Shida leaves for a bit, and Riho comes in, and then it's like, what's the deal with that? They're not often around at the same time. And there's no real explanation given.
I think it's just them, just cycling in different wrestlers at a time, and it just happens to be them like that.
They shouldn't do that.
It's a small division, so I'm not surprised that they do that.
It's not how you build stars or keep things consistent. But do you think Riho beats Toni Storm? I think Riho is totally going to beat Toni Storm at World's End. because Toni Storm's
What?
gimmick is really over, and everybody's enjoying it. And she's facing Riho, who's a multi-time AEW Women's Champion, and they're going to cut it dead like they cut dead every good women's title reign they ever have.
Well, they've already done that multiple times already this year.
Exactly.
So I think they've learned their lesson.
No,
They've learned
they
their lesson,
haven't.
I think. Yeah.
They're going to have Riho win to prove a point. Riho's going to win.
Like,
I'd bet you.
I'd be very surprised. Like, well, I guess we'll know your prediction come next Saturday, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Riho.
I was kind of surprised. I was surprised. I thought Saraya was actually going to win the match because I thought there was a better story with Saraya versus Toni Storm for World's End. I thought that would sell better for the pay-per-view, but I guess we're not thinking about that. So, I mean, I get your view on how it seems like it's kind of forced, and they want this no matter what, but I still think Toni's going to win because it's way too early for her to lose the title right now.
Okay, if you say so. Why didn't Saraya win the match?
Because I think they felt like they've done this already. They don't want to go backwards again. But I felt they could have. They just didn't feel that way. And
they should have.
They wanted to give.
They should
have, but they've been building Rio, so this is what they've been building for.
Have they been building Riho? She's been back for what, 2 weeks?
And she had like 2 or 3 wins. She beat Ruby Soho. She beat Saraya.
Right. She's going to beat Toni Storm, too. They always do it. Roderick Strong had a good match with Commander that I wanted to shout out. I thought that match was good. I like Jay White beating Jon Moxley, too. I thought that match was good. Surprise finish to see Jon Moxley pin clean, middle of the ring. But 2 good matches, I thought, to close out Dynamite this week. Strong and Commander was better than I expected it to be. It was fun.
Well, I think for me, Commander really showed that like he's one of the better workers they have for like the Lucha Libre like style.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know a lot of the guys are kind of all over the place, but like he's somewhat, it's more well paced in terms of his stuff. Like he's gonna do crazy stuff, but like he doesn't overwhelm you with it, where everyone else does, where it's just big move, big move, big move. It's like he places it well and like times it well.
Yes.
And Roderick Strong obviously is a very good wrestler too, so maybe that helped as well.
Yeah, Roderick Strong is really good. I kind of forget about Roderick Strong being as good as he is because he's just kind of there, and he's got this ridiculous gimmick, and he's got all this weird stuff going on. But then when it comes down to it, when you see him wrestle, you're like, oh yeah, that's Roderick Strong. He's been a great wrestler for years. I remember seeing him wrestle in, TNA back in the day?
I remember Ring of Honor. He was on one of the Ring of Honor pay-per-views we watched back in the day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's been wrestling forever. He's a real pro wrestler. It's cool to see him get over with this gimmick now, this Adam thing and the neck brace and all of that, because he's
Renee.
Renee, like all the yelling and stuff, because he's been like this solid pro wrestler with not much gimmick for pretty much his whole career, right? Like, there's never been a ton of personality from Roderick Strong. If you were to describe him, you wouldn't go, oh, he's got this gimmick. You know, you'd be like, oh, he's really solid in the ring. He's a good hand, whatever. You know, but now all of a sudden it's like a different version of Roderick Strong, and it's working. And it's, you know, because there's a lot of good, solid wrestlers in AEW. It's not going to get you over. It's not going to get you TV time. But he's all over their TV right now. He's in one of their main stories, because he's gotten over as a character. He's got this catchphrase over. He's got this character over. He's unleashed a different aspect to his game. You know, he was just always a solid wrestler, but now he's added this, you know, sports entertainment, this personality side to it, and it's made him somebody to look for in AEW rather than just kind of another face in the pack, which he could have easily been. You know, like he could have easily just kind of faded into the. He could have been Shawn Spears, just kind of there, but yeah, You know he's good, he's solid, but whatever. There's just nothing extra that draws you in. But Roderick Strong, like when he first came into AEW, it was like, yeah, all right, whatever. But he's built this thing where now he's got a character and he's got personality and it's fun. He's got something going.
I know it's kind of goofy and a little stupid sometimes, but like I'm actually kind of interested in it. Like I actually find it hilarious how he just says the same thing over and over again, like the Samoa. Like
Yeah.
it makes me laugh all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it piques my interest. The only thing is like not big on his whole like Kingdom group kind of thing. Like that kind of makes it goofy when they throw in Adam Cole as well. That gets extremely way too goofy and shouldn't be shown at all. But I find him just doing a promo, talking like on the stage or in the ring. That's good stuff, and they should do more of that. They are doing more of that. We saw that in Montreal, and we're seeing it more and more every week.
I like how there's the main story with the devil, who's the devil, and then you got MJF, who's the world champion, and you've got Samoa Joe, who's there, and then Adam Cole is kind of in the background as MJF's best friend, and that's where Roderick Strong kind of started with this whole thing, didn't like that Adam Cole was hanging out with MJF, and now at Roderick Strong has this whole other campaign, this kind of offshoot of the main story, where he's saying that MJF is the devil, and he's trying to convince everybody that it's MJF, and has been MJF this whole time, and he's saying that Samoa Joe is his best friend by proxy for some reason. Even that, I'm kind of lost. Like, why that?
Broke his neck.
Because Joe broke his neck?
Yeah, Joe broke his neck.
So why is Roderick Strong saying Joe is his best friend? Because Adam Cole is his best friend, and Adam Cole is best friends with MJF, and MJF is kind of friends with Joe. Like, I don't even understand what's going on there with Roderick Strong and Samoa Joe, but it's funny. It's entertaining. It's working for him. So I like it.
It's not bad. It's not bad. Like, it's definitely one of the more interesting things going on in the show. Like, there's not in terms of great stories, but he's definitely a character I'm interested in.
Yeah, I like him. I'd like to see more Hangman on the show. I'd like to see some of their...
Well, he got taken out, though.
Yeah, I know, but he can't do a promo from home talking about something, saying something. I'd like to see more consistency with their stars, like their main stars that, like if something happens to Hangman last week, this week there should be an update.
Okay.
Like, why is Tony Schiavone doing the promo for Christian this week? Why isn't there a promo from Edge? Like, there's just not a lot of consistency from AEW on, who's going to be on the show from week to week. You start a story one week, and then it doesn't continue until 2 weeks later because that's when you fit it in. It's just like there's a lack of consistency with their stars. I would like to see a certain set of wrestlers on Dynamite. They're going to be on Dynamite. Another set of wrestlers on Collision. They're going to be on Collision. And they all have stories that make sense, that tie into the shows and, are progressing. There's so many wrestlers with just random matches and very few actual storylines going in AEW. It's just a bunch of like dream matches thrown together for their pay-per-views, and that's not ideal. You want to build up. You want to have some stories going into it, and I feel like it's all over the place right now. There's the main story with MJF, and then there's just not much else going on.
It's also hard to tell stories when the Continental Classic takes up so much time.
Yep.
So that kind of takes away as well. But
and that's only one match you're building towards at the pay-per-view. You know what I'm saying? Like, that Continental Classic took up so much TV time, so much space in AEW, and all you're really doing is building towards one match for the finals of the Continental Classic at pay-per-view for the Ring of Honor title. Like, it doesn't even mean that much in the end. Like, in New Japan Pro Wrestling, when they do the G1, it's not like they have a weekly TV show, New Japan, right? So they're just doing the G1. And every show is like a G1 show, and you see this and these matches, And then at the end, you have the winner of this block and the winner of this block, and then they face each other at the G1 final, which is like a pay-per-view. And then the winner of the G1 final, they go on to face the world champion at Wrestle Kingdom in the main event, which is kind of like their WrestleMania. You win the G1, it's like you win the Royal Rumble. For this tournament, it takes up a lot of space on their TV, and all it really does is build towards one match on pay-per-view that isn't even all that important. Which kind of sucks, you know? Like in New Japan,
Wow.
they shut, everything. Like, they're not doing anything but G1 for a while, and then when you win it, it means a lot. But here, you win it, you go to the finals, and then you're Ring of Honor World Champion. You took it from Eddie Kingston, who just gave it up for the tournament. It doesn't mean all that much. And I think you win some other belt. There's like a Continental Classic belt that they're going to reveal.
New Japan Strong title.
New Japan Strong that Eddie Kingston also gave up. How much it means to him. It means as much to him as the Ring of Honor TV title meant to Samoa Joe.
Thank you very much.
Now they have the ROH Women's TV Championship they just announced. Thank you. I know. Great announcement. I'm sure everyone would love hearing that.
Oh, Harold Schneider's gifting memberships. That's what's happening. I was like, what is happening? I'm confused. There's a lot of stuff going on in the chat. Thank you, Harold Schneider. He said, Harold Schneider been a member for 31 months. Thank you, Harold. And he gifted 5 Ringside Report Network memberships.
Thank you very much.
Great Christmas
There you
gift.
go. So welcome to the new members, 50 Shades of Blue, Franco 316, Archipelago 2, Doug Hepburn, who's already a member over at membership.ringsidereport.net, but now he's a member over at join.ringsidereport.net. So shout out to all our new members. Thank you, Harold Schneider.
Thank you very much.
Very supportive member. Okay.
That's always nice to see. It's always great to see. More support is always
I love it.
Very much.
wonderful.
Merry Christmas to you all. Hopefully you all have a beautiful Christmas season with whoever you will celebrate Christmas with.
Happy Festivus is currently Festivus now.
It is officially Festivus, John.
You know, we've all aired most of our grievances, I think. I still have more grievances there, but
Oh, I've got tons
Good
of
chunk is there.
grievances, but I mean, Wrestling Uncensored, we kind of air our grievances about wrestling every week, right? I have general grievances,
true.
but I don't think I should air them because they're not really fit for public consumption.
well, I got one I'd like to air. Like, I
Wow.
don't know if you saw the thing. Yeah.
Go for it.
So I don't know if you saw this, like the Natty did an interview talking about how she thought Owen Hart would have been a world champion if that tragedy didn't happen. And I like Natty. I think Natty's I think that came from a good place where she was saying that.
Yeah.
But if you were watching that and saw what was going on, there was no way Owen was going to be world champion
No.
ever
No.
in WWE.
No.
That was never going to happen. I'd love for that to happen. I wanted it to happen. It was never going to happen, sadly. Like, Owen was probably only going to wrestle, 4 or 5 more years? Because he was already 34. Like, he wasn't going to wrestle, like, into his 40s.
Yeah, he wanted to
Like,
retire.
yeah. Like,
Look, everyone,
and
it's Santa.
that's cool to see Santa. But, like, I believe Stone Cold was pretty much the champion that whole way through. And there was
Mhm.
no way Stone Cold was going to work with Owen after what happened
Nope.
with the tombstone. So
Nope.
it just wasn't going to. We didn't have 2 world champions at that time. So it just wasn't going to happen, sadly.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have loved it to happen.
Yeah, when
But-
Brett got screwed and then Owen came back and went after Shawn and Hunter, like when Owen went after DX, then that was the
Yep.
time to make Owen world champion.
was
It
the
would have
time.
been great. I wanted to see it happen. It didn't happen. But you're right. By the time he was the Blue Blazer, like that ship had sailed, and it was clear that they were never going to push Owen to the main event. So yeah, Natty saying that is a nice sentiment, and I'm sure there's a part of her that believes that. But being a fan from back then, booking wise, it was clear he was not destined for that role. great wrestler,
When
could have,
fantastic
carried the
wrestler,
belt,
yeah.
been a great world champion, but that just wasn't in the cards for Owen Hart at that time. A lot of great wrestlers never became world champion in WWE. A lot of great wrestlers. Some you might even be surprised. Like, he was never champion. Did you know Roddy Piper was never WWF champion? You know? He was pretty good.
Oh, he was pretty good.
Right?
You know, you can go with huge list, right? Mr. Perfect,
Yeah.
Razor Ramon. Like, there's a lot.
But Piper is like kind of one of those that you go, man, he was a legend of legends, main evented Mania. Like, he was massive.
Yeah.
Never WWF champion. So if Piper was never WWF champion and he managed to be as big as he was, like a massive star in wrestling, crossover appeal, still remembered, still respected across the board, never WWF champion. It just shows you, like, that era was different, and it's not something that you need to be a legend of pro wrestling, like Owen Hart is, like Mr. Perfect is, like Roddy Piper is, like so many guys that never held the WWF title.
Ted DiBiase was one of the best, I thought.
Yeah.
Like, I thought wrestling gimmick, I mean, arguably maybe the greatest gimmick ever. And, like, although, whatever, he fought the WWF title, they don't actually recognize him as an actual WWF champion in the record book, sadly.
Yeah.
And that's a shame, because he should have been, at least at one point. How did they not ever make that make sense for him to be champion? It's kind of ridiculous, but that never happened.
Yep.
It's too bad.
Yep. I mean, they never made Duke the Dumpster Droese champion, John. Today, you would have been champion for sure. At least world heavyweight.
He's still wrestling. Didn't he come back to wrestling recently?
What? Duke the Dumpster is still out there?
Yeah, he's still alive, and I think he wrestled recently, if I'm not mistaken.
Does he still do the Duke the Dumpster gimmick? Is he allowed?
I think he had the trash can. He put some on the trash can, yeah. I don't think he called himself Duke the Dumpster Droese. I don't know if he's allowed that, but
yeah.
he definitely wrestled.
I would not put him as a guy that should be the world champion. I was joking about old Duke the Dumpster. I just thought it was a funny gimmick. They had so many funny gimmicks back then. Adam Bomb, Duke the Dumpster. You know who I thought back then could have been a world champion? Crush. I thought Crush could have been world champion.
It's funny, like you say, like I honestly thought Brian Clark, Adam Bomb, like he looked like a guy who could have been world champion.
Yeah,
like, I could have seen that. Adam Bomb, maybe not the gimmick, no, but the person and the way he looked, like as Wrath, like it pushed a bit more. Like definitely, I could have seen that.
Anyways, any more grievances?
That was my main one I was thinking about. Like, I don't think anything really comes to mind right now.
Not a big grievance.
Well, I was kind of upset about it a bit. I don't know. Like, I know, because like a lot of people like to rewrite history and like, oh, Eddie was, and I'm not going to say Eddie Guerrero wasn't amazing. Eddie was great, but like people were like, oh, he transcend wrestling and all this. Like, Eddie was a good part of wrestling, but he wasn't like, he was there. That was it. He wasn't like the guy. Like, everyone says he was. Like, it feels like people kind of twist how things were, and like things were better than they were, Like, again, Owen, fantastic. I loved Owen. I was like the biggest Owen Hart fan, but he wasn't the guy, really. Like, when he grabbed Vince, that was his highlight. Like, it never got any higher after that.
Yeah.
It just went down afterwards, sadly. That's the reality of the situation.
He had a great career, but there can only be, one top guy, right? And that's kind of what you're saying. Like, he was never really that top guy. Eddie Guerrero was the top guy, though, for a bit on SmackDown.
Yeah, well, that's it. When there was 2 world champions on SmackDown for a very small portion.
Yeah. They do kind of talk about Eddie like he was a main event his whole career. He was this giant star, but that's not how he was really booked.
It's not really,
But he was incredible. Like, Eddie and Owen Hart, both guys, 2 of the most talented wrestlers to ever walk into a ring. Some of the best matches you'll ever see. Like, if you say, oh, I want to go watch a Eddie Guerrero match, I'll be like, yeah. You want to watch an Owen Hart match? Yeah. You want to watch some of these other guys? I'm not that into it, but I'll still watch Eddie or Owen all day because they're incredible. Incredible. Their stuff holds up. And I think that's really the biggest compliment you can pay to these guys is that, 20, 30, 40 years and years, decades after their death, people will still be watching and studying their wrestling and talking about how great they were.
Yeah.
And that's I think that's what you can hope for as a pro wrestler, or really anybody, just kind of leaving a legacy. And those guys definitely left a legacy. It's unfortunate that Chris Benoit did what he did because he had some good matches too. I just don't watch them.
Yeah, it's very sad what happened with Chris Benoit.
Who I like to go back and watch a lot is Mick Foley, because you go back and you go, God damn, that guy was crazy. He did everything to himself. The bumps hold up. I'm not talking about the Hell in a Cell. I'm just talking about everyday Mick Foley match, regular-ass Mick Foley match. He gave his body to pro wrestling more than anybody. That guy, my God. See the stuff that Foley took back then? Nobody takes that stuff today. People take bumps today. People do flips and everything, but just the thud of a Mick Foley bump, Some of the things he would do, just hitting the concrete, like he just didn't care about his well-being. He was willing to give everything, all the pain, to his match. Amazing.
Well, you remind me now of my airing of grievances, because Mick Foley's definitely on that list of airing of grievances.
No. There'll be no Cactus Jack tarnishing tonight. How dare you?
Look, I'm not, in terms of the wrestling, Mick Foley, one of the best, one of my favorites, without question. I mean, you interviewed him, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
It's in some sort of archive somewhere. I know that. But he said recently, a bunch of his podcasts, he's not a big fan of the violent wrestling today. He thinks people go too far. And it's like, you're partly the reason why people do this. You know?
Man.
So it's kind of your fault.
Yeah.
So
who is he to say that? He's not a fan of the violent wrestling. Well, Mick Foley, you are the pioneer of these violent wrestlers, and they all look to you as the godfather. So congratulations. This is part of your legacy. I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to Johnny North. Happy holidays to everybody. Happy holidays. Angelo Contagonis dropping the super chat. Jason Pete, all the members that supported the Ringside Report Network over this past year. Harold Schneider, thank you for dropping the gifted memberships to everybody. Jason, Angelo, Leor, Doug, Harold, everybody supporting the Ringside Report Network this year. We definitely appreciate you guys over at join.ringsidereport.net, membership.ringsidereport.net. This is our final episode of Wrestling Uncensored before Christmas, but we will be back for a year-end edition and a World's End preview next Friday night here, 10 p.m. Eastern, right after, I want to say right after SmackDown, but there's no SmackDown, right?
There's no SmackDown. I believe maybe there's a Collision. There's definitely Rampage. So there's definitely something AEW. So
should we come on earlier next Friday? Should we do an earlier start, maybe?
We possibly could, maybe.
Stay tuned to the Ringside Report Network, but I think we'll probably just be on at the regular time next Friday, and then we'll be on after AEW World's End to review that pay-per-view. So we're definitely staying busy during the holiday season, and we are here for you on the Ringside Report Network. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight on YouTube, Kick, Twitch, Twitter, Rumble, wherever you're watching us. Thank you. And, of course, a Merry Christmas for all of those celebrating. And to you, Johnny North, a Merry Christmas. You see my Stone Cold Christmas, baby.
I saw that. Like, you have a couple of, Christmas-themed wrestling sweaters, I'm not mistaken, no?
This is the only Christmas one I have. I've got an MJF Hanukkah one that you gave me.
Right. Okay, there's only two ones you have. Okay, that looks pretty nice. Is that a new one or is that an older one?
No, it's old. Had it for a while.
It's old. Okay.
Yeah.
No, it looks pretty good. It's definitely one of the better Christmas sweaters I think WWE's come out with. I can't say they've had good ones in the past recently, so that one looks pretty decently.
Thanks, man.
But kind of want to get back into my airing of grievances because I have more grievances.
What? No, the show's over.
Oh, yeah.
Stop airing grievances, man. I'm done.
Okay. Well,
You're going to be airing grievances till New Year's Eve, man. What are you doing to me?
Well, I think you can agree with this, just how horrible the snow removal is. Like, we don't have snow anymore, but... No.
There's been no snow. The snow removal was fine. There was some snow, then they removed it, and now there's no snow on the ground at all. How are you bitching about snow removal when I'm trying to wrap up the show? What is going on with you right now?
No. We got to complain about this because we had that huge snowstorm December 3rd when you came to see me wrestle, remember?
Yeah.
Terrible snowstorm.
Did I come? I wasn't there.
Oh, no, you didn't come to that one, no. But the recent one, December 3rd, I wrestled. I was in Laval. Horrible snowstorm. Good that you didn't come, actually.
Yeah.
And it was terrible for days. Not mistaken. I remember AEW came and all that. And I remember my street was just covered. Sidewalks weren't done for like a whole week. Ridiculous. Unacceptable. So I just wanted to air that grievance. People in NDG know. AJ knows. It's terrible. I guess it's better you're not living in NDG anymore. It's not so bad.
Yeah.
They actually clean your sidewalks.
Grew up in NDG. Do not live there anymore. Do not have any plans on going back. Ever. Let me air my grievance for the day. I did jujitsu 3 times this week, and my body hurts. How about that?
So you're grieving about your body?
Yeah, I mean, my neck hurts. My arms hurt in various places, in the shoulder and the elbow, bicep for some reason. My ankle's kind of weird feeling. I've got, my back is actually fine. My neck is kind of stiff, though.
Is this Fred's fault, really? Or is the grievance towards Fred beating you up, or no?
Never Fred's fault. Fred is a good man. But yeah, I mean, I do jujitsu with Fred, and I don't think. Anyways, I'm just saying, John, my body hurts. That's all. I need some sort of, in the new year, I'm going to get some sort of, I keep hearing Joe Rogan talk about peptides for recovery. I don't know what peptides are, but if Joe Rogan's doing it, maybe I should too. I think those are famous last words. Probably not. However,
it sounds like you need stem cells.
I think I need something. I think I want something. I want something in me because I'm getting older, and I plan to keep doing jiu-jitsu as much as possible. And it would be nice if I could recover quicker. I think that's really my main thing. Recovery. Maybe Jason Peake could tell me about that. I think he's like a brown belt. I know he trains a lot, and I think he's roughly in my age category. So maybe he knows about recovery or peptides. He's in Mexico. They got all the good stuff out there. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying Jason's on any of that stuff. I'm just saying they have. All right. Goodbye. Thanks. I'll see you again real soon. Well, next Friday, actually. I'm off for like a week. I got a little break ski. No Ringside Report MMA on Thursday night because I'm going to the WWE show live in Laval. So if you want some Ringside Report
I'll
MMA,
be on the floor.
Go watch last night's show. It's our year-end recap for everything MMA. I put a lot of work into it. If you didn't watch it, go watch it because I put a lot of work into it, a lot of research.
A lot of hijinks in that episode.
Yeah, a lot of hijinks, a lot of good stuff. All right? We'll see you again next week for more Wrestling Uncensored right here on the Ringside Report Network.
Thanks for sticking with us to the end. We would really appreciate it if you could help us spread the word.
You know the drill. Hit that subscribe button. Flip those notification switches.
We are an audience-supported network, so consider becoming a recurring supporter at membership.ringsidereport.net. Check out our website at ringsidereport.net. Hope to see you again next time.